Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to St. Mary's. If we haven't met before, my name is Matt, and I'm one of the leaders here at the church, and I'm very, very glad to welcome you this evening. And at this time of year, we look at what the Bible has to say about money and giving and generosity. But before I begin, can I just start with a little caveat? If you are here and you're a guest or a visitor, just coming for the first time maybe, can I just say sit back? Relax, make yourself comfortable, and know that what I say doesn't really apply to you. If you are a Christian, you may want to apply the principles of what I'm saying to the church community you're part of, but no, the actual application of giving to St. Mary's doesn't apply to you. If you're here and you've just stumbled in or been brought along by a friend and you don't actually consider yourself to be a Christian, I suspect I'm fulfilling all of your expectations right now by talking about money. And I just want to be clear that we don't talk about money every single week. We just do it twice a year, okay? But when we do it, we lock the doors. No, we don't do that. You're here on your own terms. Just enjoy it. That was a joke. Now, these gift days at this time of year are really important to us and to our future because actually everything that we do here at St. Mary's is only made possible by the generosity of people who call this place their home. Everything from keeping the lights on, worshipping together, paying for the staff who nurture our youth and kids, stocking the shelves at our social supermarket, feeding the homeless, all only made possible by the generosity of those who call this place their home. But these gift days, they're not actually only important operationally speaking. Ultimately, we've got a really particular vision as a church, which we've looked at in the last few weeks here at St. Mary's. We're looking to proclaim the gospel in a relevant, intelligible way to the culture around us. We want to be open to the power of the Spirit. We want to grow into an intercultural and inclusive community. And we do not want money or lack of money to be the bottleneck of us collectively pursuing what we feel like God has called us to do. In addition to this, we talk about money because money, our money, our precious moolah, the stuff we've earned and worked hard for in our daily grind, our safety net and security is very, very, very important to us. And yet, as disciples of Jesus, we do need reminding from time to time to see money from God's perspective and even be set free from patterns of thought that keep us fearful and defensive and ultimately not very Jesus-y. So we talk about money and we teach about it every so often. We also speak about giving a couple of times a year because by nature of being a central London church, we reflect the city around us, which is transient. People come to the city for a while and then they move on very selfishly, just like they do here at St. Mary's. So if you consider yourself to be part of the church community here at St. Mary's, and you may not, you are here on your own terms. You're welcome to check us out as long as you like. But if you do consider St. Mary's to be your church, I would love you to prayerfully consider whether you might fall into one of three categories today. Firstly, if St. Mary's is your home, if it is your church family and you're not currently giving regularly financially by standing order, direct debit, or whatever, I'd like to invite you to start doing that today. This is by far the best way that any church or charity can effectively plan for the future and use our money well. And it really doesn't matter whether you give a lot or whether you give a little. It's far better if actually between us collectively we see ourselves as many parts of one body and we all give a little bit of what we can depending on our means. Individually, we may just feel like, I've got barely anything to offer. But actually, collectively, together, we can do a great deal. Secondly, if you are already giving to St. Mary's, I want to say a huge, huge thank you to you. And I'd love you just to consider your current giving and just check that it's up to date. If you started giving when you were an undergraduate student and now you're in full-time employment, things may have changed. But it's not just reviewing your circumstances. I guess we also want to just review where we are as a disciple, as a generous disciple of Jesus. Like, not only am I in a position to give more than what I was able to before, but does my heart want me to give more? Do I want to be overflowing with generosity? And thirdly, I'd like you to consider whether you could give a one-off gift at this time. And these gift days, we're looking to raise a one-off gift of £30,000 over the course of these gift days. That's what we're budgeting for as well. So today, speaking about money, giving, generosity. That said, I just want to say from the start that I am a little bit sensitive about how money is sometimes talked about in churches. It has, on the one hand, been used as something of like a stick to beat people with. Call yourself a Christian, give more money. That's terrible. Don't do that. Secondly, it's the subject of a fair amount of truly terrible theology, the rubbish of the prosperity gospel, either in its classic form, which is where you serve God and obviously then get rich, or its new form, for a swiping, scrolling, and baggy trousered generation where God wills your prosperity. Simply name it, claim it, and all of that cash will be yours. These are two very good reasons not to speak about money in church. A less good reason not to speak about money about church is the fact that all of us, at various points in our lives, find subjects like money and serving others and sin very challenging to hear, because really they cut to the very heart of what it means for us to follow Jesus. This is where the rubber hits the road with our faith, where we find that some areas we find it very easy to place Jesus right at the center, and there are other ones where we'd really like to hold on and really keep him at bay. And so we're challenged to let God in. Martin Luther, who I'm not a massive fan of, once said there are 3 conversions necessary for the Christian life. The conversion of the mind, the conversion of the heart, and the conversion of the purse, and the hardest of which is the purse. And that's a picture of Martin Luther on a purse. Now, there are lots of reasons not to talk about money. That said, Jesus did find himself talking about money an awful lot. About half of the parables are about money. 1/6 of the synoptic gospels is about money. And he did so because he knew how powerful, for good and for bad, money can be. And so what I'd like us to collectively do this evening is to avoid beating ourselves with the money stick. It's not a very good way to work towards generosity. Let's avoid the rubbish, the bad theology of the prosperity gospel. It's got far more to do with a Western materialist dream than it does to do with Jesus' teaching. Jesus, who had nowhere to lay his head. Instead, let's go for the real thing together. Let's go for a proper biblical understanding of money so that we might be healthy, we might be free, we might be all the things that Jesus wants us to be. Because money has this really weird tendency to make us think if we've just got a little bit more of this money, then we will be free. But that really isn't actually the case. And Jesus' desire for you, Jesus' desire for each and every one of you, is your happiness and your freedom. It's what he proclaims when he comes onto the scene. He says, I have arrived. I'm proclaiming good news. The Lord's favor is here. But happiness and money and freedom and money are not necessarily connected. And certainly not in the way that our society and culture tells us that they are. And so instead, let us be all about Jesus. Let us be all about his kingdom. That's a far better starting place. Now, today I want to be really, really super practical about money, because money is extremely practical. It is a tool. It's a powerful tool that God intends for us to use properly. And so as we are in this season of Lent, now rebranded as 40, a season of fasting and spiritually reflecting on our habits and the things that drive us, money is obviously one of these things that many of us are driven by. And so we're going to look at our financial habits, what we rely on, what shapes the choices that we make, and what real freedom actually looks like. So John Wesley, who founded the Methodist movement, saw something of a spiritual awakening and revival take place in this nation in the 18th century, summed up his teaching on money like this. He says, earn all you can, save all you can, and give all you can. And this is what I want to look at this evening. So firstly, make all you can, or earn all you can. Many people mistakenly believe that money is evil, or that having wealth is inherently wrong. However, this is not actually what the Bible teaches. Paul writes to Timothy saying, for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. The love of money. Money is in fact neutral. It's a tool. The problem is when we trust it, when we love it and we trust it and we make money our ultimate goal. When Jesus should be the one who we love and trust and is our ultimate goal, the one we have our attention to. So money in the hands of God's children is food for the hungry, clothing for the naked, shelter for the stranger. With money, we can care for the widow and the fatherless, defend the oppressed, meet the need of those who are sick or in pain. And money, of course, is also for our enjoyment, a gift whereby the proper response is to direct that back to God with gratitude. And so make all you can, because you were made for work. You are made in the image of a God who is always at work. The very first commandment given to Adam and Eve back in Genesis was to till the land, which just means to bring order out of the chaos, to make more beautiful, wonderful garden in Eden, extending its borders into the chaos beyond. Part of what we are when we are fully alive is we have a purpose to work towards. This is why retirement and unemployment for long periods of time can be very, very difficult for people. Now, there are lots and lots of ways that we could make money, and yet not all of the ways that we could make money are necessarily good for us or for other people. And that's purely because making money in itself is not the end in itself. Therefore, the method of how we make money really becomes very important. And so what I'd like to encourage us is to avoid get-rich-quick schemes, avoid gambling, avoid playing the lottery, speaking to myself here. Not only will I never win the lottery, sadly, but it actually negates the very purpose of working, which is about being fruitful, and it's about using what God has given each of us to make this world better, to make it absolutely beautiful. And so earning all you can means doing good work. It means using your gifts. It's about being creative. It's about bringing order out of chaos. It's about being present with the work that you are engaged in. So whether you are teaching or building or coding or designing or raising children, it's about being faithful with what is in front of you. And yet, there are jobs that take more than they give. There is work out there that destroys your health, destroys your relationships, destroys your soul. So here is a question for you. Are you hustling yourself into the ground? Are you working an 80-hour week, never seeing your friends or family, sacrificing sleep and sanity and burning out, all to climb the ladder and just to receive a bigger paycheck? Now, there's all sorts of reasons that we might find ourselves overworking, but one of those reasons might be money. And we may need to assess and reflect on whether money has in fact become the ultimate goal for us. That we work and we work and we work, we strive and we strive and we strive, and we grind and we hustle because we're just fearful that if we don't have enough money, we won't be safe. But money can't do this, and it mustn't do this. It mustn't be the end goal for us. It can't, it mustn't, because money simply cannot satisfy. Like, do we have to really hear from another celebrity or high net worth individual to tell us that when you finally reach the top, you've made insurmountable amounts of filthy lucre, that there really isn't anything there? That just having a little bit more isn't actually going to fill that hole, because no amount of money is worth losing who you are. And so earn all that you can, because it's a tool for your enjoyment, because it can benefit so many others beyond you, but not at the cost of your soul. Because the reality is that work shapes us. The way that we earn money has a direct impact on the kind of people we become. And if we work in a way that depletes us, makes us anxious, turns us into people that we never really wanted to be, we need to ask whether that was actually worth it. So that's make all you can. Now save all you can. Biblical saving is not about hoarding up treasure on earth for ourselves, obviously. Jesus says, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in to steal. Biblical saving is not about giving ourselves a sense of security, because frankly, money just can't do that. Paul instructs Timothy, the leader of the Ephesian church, command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, not to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Markets crash, jobs disappear, inflation rises, people are scammed out of their money, stolen from, and no matter how much money you have, it cannot stop sickness, loss, or death. Biblical saving is not about being cheap. It's not about being tight. It's not about being thrifty, and the Bible warns us against that. Instead, biblical saving is the antidote to the Western pressure to live far beyond our means. Let me explain. 15% of people in the UK have no savings whatsoever. No spare cash to fall back on when an emergency strikes or shocks take place. Nearly 4 in 5, 79% of people either break even or overspend every single month. 40% of people in this country spend every penny they earn, and this reality extends to every single pay bracket that people are in. So over half of Britons who earn 100K live paycheck to paycheck. Now, of course, owing to the cost of living crisis, housing costs, rising inflation, shrinking real incomes, and the rising energy price caps, many of us cannot save because we simply cannot save. There is no money left. Every single pound and penny is accounted for, and we need it. And this impacts absolutely everyone, but it's probably most acutely felt by the poorest in our society. And we really should do everything we can to support people who are in this situation. As John mentioned earlier, as we were hearing the stories, that one of the things that we have here at St. Mary's is the Fellowship Fund, which people in this community give to, and then we have 2 trustees who go to the church who anonymously receive applications for people who are in an emergency. They're just in a financial jam, and then with not out knowing the person, but just knowing some of the circumstances, they then give out of this fund to people. And I think if you find yourself in this position, then you should absolutely take advantage of that if you're part of our community. It's exactly what it's for. It's to help people in an emergency to receive a one-off financial support. So many people can't save because they simply cannot save. But some people can save, and yet they choose not to, or they fail to plan to. I was at Big Tesco this weekend. I'm the sort of person who goes to Big Tesco. And I was waiting in the car park, and I was just looking around to myself, and I'm thinking, what on earth do all of these people do for a living? Like, what are these people who are shopping around me? It's like every single car that I see, it's like, there's a Tesla, there's a Porsche, there's a Jeep, there's another Tesla. It's like there's a lot of four-wheeled house deposits driving around. If you have colleagues with a brand new Range Rover and £400 shoes, and you question why you can't afford those things and what you might be doing wrong, I'd like to suggest that you're not doing anything wrong at all. There is a consumeristic pull on us just to have the latest smartphone, even though our phone works perfectly well, or to have a great car or bike, or to pay off fast fashion items on Klarna over a period because we need it now. And we find ourselves ultimately extending our finances beyond where we can go for them, but also failing to pay back on loans and incurring astronomical fines and interest on top. This is the situation for many people in our nation right now, comparing ourselves with others. Social media and the internet has done amazing things for us. There's lots of good things about it, but it also does is it exposes us to the most successful anomalies across the entire planet, and we begin comparing ourselves to them and the things that they have got. And yet, globally speaking, every one of us is probably one of the wealthiest people on the planet. 1.5 billion people in our world live on less than $2 a day. And so if you can afford a coffee, you probably earn more than them. But the comparison thing, either up or down, is actually not very helpful to us at all. Wishing that we had what they had, living beyond our means is a way of sort of projecting that we're in a better place than we are, or trying to impress people who really don't care about us in the slightest. All it does is it reveals where our actual longings are. It redirects the very important money tool, it's a money tool, from where it's best applied to impressing people who really don't care and have already moved on to the next thing anyway. So here's my second question under saving. Do you find yourself chasing after every new thing, thinking, well, that will make me happy? And then when you get it, it does make you happy until that feeling fades and we're back scrolling again, looking for the next thing and left feeling slightly discontent. Because if you do find yourself in that position to one degree or another, I would like to say that it does not have to be this way. When Jesus says, do not store up for yourselves treasure on earth where moth and rust destroy, he's not saying that you can't own nice things. He's saying just don't let them own you. Are you with me? Saving all you can be a sign of financial responsibility. It's a resistance to being a financial burden on others. And it's a way of being able to give to God's kingdom in the future, particularly when we've passed away, through leaving legacies and investing in the next generation. So save all you can. And I know that when the topic of money comes up, people can have a real sense of anxiety about it. And when we feel anxious about our money, the temptation is really just to stick our heads in the sand, bury down, try and ignore everything that might be going on, completely avoid, delete the banking apps from our phones, everything like that. But really the best thing that we can do is get an accurate picture of our ingoing and our outgoing funds. And there are lots of really fantastic free resources out there on YouTube about budgeting, payday routines, setting savings goals. CAP, which is an organization, Christians Against Poverty, and they offer information that help people who are in debt, but also just help people manage their finances. So just as overspending is a habit that really needs to be brought into control, saving is a habit that we can grow in and be stretched in. So I'll leave that with you. Now, having made all we can and saved all we can, we then move to giving all we can. And I'd like to say that we give in two ways. Firstly, freely, and without caution, because this is exactly how God gives to us. Our God is a God who gives lavishly and abundantly. We heard some amazing stories there of people who've prayed or their parents prayed and people providing in amazing ways really, really quickly. God gives that which is of himself, which is infinite value, to death for us. This is the gospel. He gives everything for us. The gospel makes no sense. It is silly. And sometimes we just need to be really silly with our money and just give it abundantly, lavishly, just like God does. And so I would like to be a church where we are the people where we're the first one at the bar looking to buy somebody else a drink. Why don't we be the sort of people that pays more than 20% tip when we go out for dinner? Just not all the time, just sometimes. Why don't we just find someone and just give them money? You heard one of those testimonies. It's just fun. It's just quite fun when you start giving the money away. And you think it's going to be hard, and then the more you do it, the better, and you start really enjoying it. Start giving away. It will be great for you. It will be brilliant for them, and it will be brilliant for God and for his kingdom. So let's just be silly with our money. We live in a world where generosity is, in fact, countercultural. The default setting is to say, mine. It is mine. Protect what is yours. Keep what you've earned. But Jesus calls us to a completely different way, a way where money isn't just for personal comfort, but for communal flourishing, a way that we see the people around us and their needs, and we try to meet them with what we have. And the paradoxical reality is the more we give, the freer we actually become, because generosity loosens the grip that money has on us. It reorients us. It reminds us that at the end of the day, we don't actually own anything. As the psalmist says, the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. We are just stewarding what God has placed in our hands. We pass it on and we give it away. And so free yourself. Free yourself by giving and not counting the pennies. 2, give prudently, knowledgeably, and regularly. And that does not contradict the first point. Do everything you can to ensure that what you already support and the things that you want to support in the future absolutely thrive. Invest in kingdom things so that they may experience a kingdom return. I would like to say that you should not give all of your money to the church. Give some money to the church, but then also give your money to other things as well. I would say there is a cognitive dissonance to being part of the church that you belong to, but not giving to it. It's like, I belong, but I kind of don't really belong, because you and your wallet are in fact one. And so if you want to try and fully give yourself to the things that you belong to, insofar as you can. So you want to try and give money to your church, because then once you give money to the church, you are more fully invested in it. You will care about how the church is doing. You will see yourself helping it, and then you will thrive as you see the church thrive. So if you want to be in, be in. So Pip, it's my wife, you probably never met her. My wife and I, we give as a monthly standing order to St. Mary's. We also support a few other charities in monthly giving, charities which are particularly close to my wife's heart. We also have a line in our budget where we just know we're going to give this money away this month, but we don't know where it's going to go. It's the best. It's so fun. It's so fun. And so we just know that there's this money here. And so as things pop up during the month or things happen, we just go, oh, that would be the thing. That would be a fun transfer to make. It's really good. It's really nice. And then also we try to follow the Spirit when it comes to gift days in terms of giving one-off gifts as well. What I'd like to say is that there are no rules about how much or how often we ought to give. As you're probably aware, in the Old Testament, there was the tithe. This is the 10%. It's where people gave the first 10% of what they had made or received. They gave that to God and kept the 90%. This doesn't actually apply to us today. The Old Testament, love it. Love the Old Testament, but it's fulfilled. It's fulfilled, okay? So don't be bound by the 10% tithe, but I would say that it's a good guide. I know that some churches say that 10% is now the minimum. Maybe it's the ideal. Maybe it's something to aim for. And I would like to say, should we just follow the Spirit? You know how to hear God's voice. You know how to follow the Spirit. What is the Spirit saying to you? Maybe it's above and beyond 10%, like one of those testimonies. Like when you get into the flow, you just start loving it. Maybe it's just like stepping out, and this is going to be a stretching thing for you. But what's the number? What is God leading you to do? So if we give to St. Mary's, what are we giving to? So hopefully you can see on the screen. This is the graph. On the screen, income comes from a variety of sources. The largest proportion of our income comes from renting out this space that you're sat in right now. This is a really recent change for us. Only recently has rental income outmatched congregational giving. But giving in the form of standing orders, one-off gifts, usually given on gift days, is absolutely essential to our ongoing running as well. There's also gift aid, which is topped up. It's the thing which the government gives 25 pence on every pound. If you tick the box, they give it to us. That's fantastic. And then we also have some grants, interest on stuff as well. I would like to point out that of the coloured bits on that dial there is not a label saying Church of England. Yeah? I think sometimes people think that this is only made possible because the institution is that's not the way it works. That is not the case. We're not receiving money from the Church of England. Now, what comes in must also go out. So this is the expenditure. 42% goes on running costs. That's the upkeep of the building, facilities, paying for staff. Some goes towards pastoral, community and mission, supporting other charities. Actually, 8% of our income does actually go to the Church of England. We get some of it back, but most of that then goes to pay for clergy in other parishes who can't afford them, and also training future clergy in the Church of England as well. I'd also like to note that there's no savings on the dial either. We are not sort of hoarding money away each month. Everything that comes in is used. Everything. And so these gift days are actually really important to ensure that we can continue to do what we do. But really, that 30,000 that we're looking to receive in one-off gifts, that really only takes into account where we are now and continuing what we're doing, but it doesn't resource the areas of vision that we want to grow into as well. And I'm going to say a lot more about that next week, which will be fun. So, as I said at the start, if you consider St. Mary's to be your home, to be your family, the church you belong to, and you're currently not giving regularly, I would like to invite you to consider starting to give today. If you currently give, I'd like you to review it, think about whether it's right, and if it's right, that's fantastic. But if it's not, and you're in a position to increase your giving, even a small incremental growth on what you're currently giving can make a substantial difference as we all give collectively as a church. And thirdly, to prayerfully consider whether you could give a one-off gift at this time. These gift days are important. And we would like you to participate however the Spirit is leading you. And I want to say that whilst that's true, we're especially interested in increasing the number of standing orders or regular givers that we have at St. Mary's. So let me just give you a very sort of a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, as it were. So just for example, this is June 2019. So this is just before the pandemic, and we had 141 regular givers. That number represents obviously individuals, but it might represent families, it might represent couples as well. And the average monthly donation was £156. I don't think average is actually a very useful thing, because people gave a lot less, people gave a lot more as well, but that was the average. And then the total regular giving for that month was £22,000. I can see there's more zeros than there should be in that 22,000. Okay. As you'd expect, the number of regular givers fluctuated during the pandemic as people were furloughed, lost jobs, moved out of London, left the church for whatever reason. So in June 2021, there were 117 regular givers, and for that month, 14,000 was how much we had. And the number of regular givers actually dropped still in 2022 as well. Now, we've made efforts as things have opened back up and the church has begun to grow to increase the number of regular givers, and so as of June 2024, we have 124 regular givers, an average donation of £137, totaling £17,000 for the month. And just to say, this is great. It's fantastic, and we are extremely thankful to everybody who's been part of the church for all that time and faithfully given, and those who've responded to our calls to become a regular giver in the last few years as well. It's absolutely amazing. One thing that I would just like to acknowledge, and I think is worth pointing out, that particularly we think that the number of people who now attend this church regularly on a Sunday is probably back to where we were before the pandemic, which is fantastic. It's a really great thing, and let's pray that continues, that we continue to grow. But our monthly regular giving is 22% down from where it was when the congregation was exactly the same size in 2019. And really, as the church grows, the demand for space and ministry for events really increases. So if you were here a few weeks ago and we did the Super Sunday, you'd have heard during the notices about people who had signed up to serve on various teams. There's so many more things going on, different people who want to use the building for their particular event. rent and the things that God is doing. And so just so you know, the conversations that we're having as a leadership team at the moment, really regarding operations, it's just increasingly, how do we manage to do all of the things that we want to do? And very soon we're going to have to make some tough decisions about saying no to people who want to rent the building and bring in a large wad of cash doing it, because we have to prioritize the ministry that's taking place here. Because to be clear, we are a living and active church that rents out our facilities as opposed to a world-class central London venue that a church meets in occasionally. That's the right way around. So to plan and to make space for all that God is doing and for the future growth that I foresee coming as well, we're looking to increase regular giving. And so rather than just relying on the few, I think it's better that we just see this as the task that we are all participating in, that actually this belongs to all of us. This is our responsibility collectively. And in my heart of hearts, I think it'd be amazing if everybody in the church gave something, like 100% of people gave. I don't know how possible that is. That'd be amazing. But what would be really incredible is to be able to stand here in June 2025 and give some feedback from how these gift days have gone, and just say that we now have more regular givers than we did before the pandemic. Wouldn't that be amazing to see how things had moved on, and how we had grown, and how God has provided for us? Like, it's just a metric. It's not even the most important metric. It's just a sign that God has been doing something among us. It'd be incredible. Now, individually, I know that when we talk about these things, people can just think, well, I don't really have very much. I don't have very much, and I don't think it actually makes a very big difference to the overall thing. And what I really want to stress is that's not actually the case. That actually together, as we all do this, we can make an enormous difference with the little or the lot that we have got. And there's a real power in choosing to do this together and just feeling like you are part of St. Mary's. And just by way of example, if we added 20 new givers, and I'm using 20 because that brings us above where we were in 2019. If we added 20 new givers and they were, say, giving £200 a month and they all ticked the gift aid box, that would increase our monthly income by £5,000. It's massive. If 20 people started giving or increased their regular giving by £50 a month with the gift aid, that would be £15,000 over the course of a year. We currently have 124 givers. But if we all added and we all did the little bit that we feel able to do, the little bit that we feel the Spirit is leading us to do, we could do so much more. And then we can begin planning and really seeking to do the things that God is calling us to do. It is a mistake to think that what you are able to give is too small to make a difference. And actually, as you probably know, to God, the amount is not the most important thing. It's the heart behind it. And so do you have a good and generous heart? And do you want to? Because if you do, you can start today. You can grow in this area. If this is an area of anxiety and fear for you and you want to participate, you can liberate yourself by giving and giving it a go. And so is God calling you to be a new regular giver? And I know that this... I just also want to add that some people get very worried about being sort of tied in when they start doing regular giving. But a standing order, you can just go onto your online banking, you can log in, you could reduce the amount, you could stop it for a few months, you could stop it completely if your circumstances change. This is not a subscription to a gym. It is a church, and we're all part of it, and we're called to be generous, and I'd encourage you to be open, but also just know that you're free. And that's absolutely fine. So let's just be responsive to what the Spirit is asking us to do. So have a look at the information above, but also you'll have paperwork under your seats as well, which you can look at as well. You can set up regular giving or make a one-off gift via the online banking on the QR code. It takes you to a secure giving page. Nicholas and Vicky are handing out pens if you want to go analog and use paper rather than digital. The account details are also on the gift day forms on the chairs, and it can be found under the giving page on our website. You can also give with debit, credit card via our website as well. It's very quick, very easy. Now, whether you are giving via paper form or by online banking, could I ask you to please, if you're a UK taxpayer, to tick the gift aid box? Have any of you come across Rory Sutherland? He's like into marketing. He did a little bit of a study, sort of he was working for a charity, and he found that when charities ask people to tick the box, it actually stops people from giving money altogether. Could you please resist that? Could you please resist that and just tick the box? as you know, this is just the government giving 25 pence on every pound. It's money for nothing. It takes nothing out of your account, but it really can make a big difference to us. So please tick the box while you're doing that. Whatever you're planning to do today, I'd be grateful if you could take a moment to tell us using the gift day form. You can stuff it into the bags as they go round. This just helps us with our planning. You're also free to pledge, which is where you well, I can't give the money now, but I could give the money in 3 months' time or at a later date. That's fine. So in a moment, we're going to sing a song because this is all worship. Joanna and the bands, do you want to come on over? During which there'll be bags. It's very retro. The bags will go round, and you can put your forms into the collection bag.